So we're going to get started straight away here, and I'm going to pull up my Canvas. All right, so here's my Canvas homepage, and before we launch into like just straight up full demo here, just want to give you a little bit of background about the classic quizzes and the new quizzes. So classic quizzes are the original type of quiz. I think it's a nice way of saying the old quiz is the classic quiz. They look more like the rest of Canvas and function in a lot of the same ways. They have certain benefits. Some of the questions that classic quizzes have, new quizzes don't, and that works actually the other way too. So new quizzes are a newer addition to Canvas. There's more question types actually, but not all of the question types. And they've also added some new ones that are pretty cool and like a little more interactive, I would almost say. There are some quirks with the new quizzes. When you get into the new quiz system, it looks quite a bit different than anywhere else in Canvas. And so we'll make sure that we take a look at all that too. So since classic quizzes were with us first, I'm going to start with classic quizzes. And one thing nice about the classic quizzes is that you can build them right from your modules. So if you're using modules to post your content and you want to build a quiz directly into one of the modules, if you just elect to go with classic quizzes, you can do that. So here I am on my modules page, and just as if I were going to add an assignment to a module, I'm going to click the same little plus sign over here and add the quiz. And the reason why I just keep jabbering and not clicking is because if y'all didn't know this yet, Canvas actually went down across the nation today for about 15 to 30 minutes, and it looks like loading time is still a little bit slow. But let's see if I can click the plus sign. No, it's not letting me. This could make it an interesting day here. Oh, yes, there we go. So once this window pops up, Canvas always defaults to showing you how to add an assignment, but we're going to click this drop down and instead click quiz. Now we're going to click new quiz because we're making a new classic quiz. Don't let that trick you. And we're going to give the quiz a name, and let's be really fancy and call it sample quiz for presentation. I like to organize my quizzes into groups just so they're easier to find. So if you're making a math quiz or a science quiz or whatever, and you have the assignment groups that they could fall in, you can definitely do that. I've actually created a quizzes group just for this. And sometimes indenting can help organize in a module, so you can do that if you want. And then you go ahead and click add the item just as if it were an assignment. And the link to the quiz will show up at the bottom of your module here. Now to start writing the quiz, you click on the title of it, just like you would for an assignment. And then it'll take you to this screen where you'll click the edit pencil. And this is where you can start setting up some of the settings and giving quiz instructions for the students. And you don't on this first page put any questions, which is a little bit confusing. But what I look at here is this is like the cover page. It's like the cover page for students to look at before they actually start taking the quiz. So, you can just put in short little instructions there, whatever you think they might need, and then go through and start putting in all the settings. So you actually have a choice within classic quizzes of 4 different quiz types. It defaults to a graded quiz, which obviously will be graded, but you can also have a practice quiz, which won't add up toward the final grade. And you can also do surveys, and you can have a survey that's graded or ungraded. And the difference with the survey structure is there isn't necessarily right or correct answers, I guess. But in the interest of time, we're going to just stick with graded quizzes for this presentation right now. You can click to shuffle answers. So on multiple choice questions, you could like say always put the same answer, or the correct answer rather, as the top one, and then that'll just shuffle them up for you and you won't have to think about where you're putting them. You can put in a time limit. One thing to note about time limits is that when kids get in there, they actually will see a timer ticking down. So for students with test anxiety, that can kind of put them over the top. So just be a little bit careful with that. Oh my goodness, I just stopped sharing my screen. There we go. You can allow students multiple attempts on classic quizzes. And you can decide how much information you let the students see. So for example, let students see the correct answers is checked by default. But if you wanted to allow multiple attempts, you probably would want to undo that one. Showing one question at a time can be kind of nice for students who get overwhelmed with this. An access code is really great if you don't want students to take the quiz before like a set time. And so you can just put in a code word that the kids will type in before they can start taking it. Filtering IP addresses that's more for when we're in school. It's so like if you didn't want an absent student to take the test, that's not going to work for remote learning. Don't click that one, and then assign it to who is just like the assignment. And so those are kind of just the basic settings, but there's no questions there. To write questions, you actually have to click on this questions tab. When you click on the questions tab, there's 3 options for putting in questions into your quiz. You can just start writing new questions one by one by clicking this new questions button. You can start a new questions group by clicking on that one. And what a new question group is it's like a container for some questions within this quiz itself, and Canvas will mix up the order of the questions within that group. So it's like a group of questions within the quiz. And then for find questions, if you've been using question banks, which we'll get to by the end of this presentation, you can pull questions out of your question banks and put them into your quiz. Question banks and question groups are different. Question groups live inside the quiz itself, and question banks can be used for any different quizzes and imported into the different quizzes from those banks. So we won't have time for question groups today, but we'll hopefully have time to touch on question banks just a little bit. For this demo, though, we're going to go through with just adding new questions within the classic quiz itself. So I click on that new question button, and right away by default, Canvas picks that we have a multiple choice question. But the one I want to show you, actually I'm going to show you 2, but the one I'm super excited about with classic quizzes is if we hit this drop-down menu, we see that there's actually a lot of different question choices. And the one that I'm super psyched about right now is the formula question, because the formula question will let you build some sort of formula using variables where you can set a range and Canvas will automatically like plug numbers in for that range. So if you had, say, 30 kids in your class, you could have 30 different randomly created sets of numbers that students would be able to answer, and nobody would have the exact same question, but you could then really see if the students understand the concept. And what's cool about formula questions, I think too, is that you can use them for just like straight numeric math computation, but you can also use them with story problems. So let me kind of show you how this works a little bit. I'll just type a really very basic story problem. So there were, and the way you'd put in the variables here is you use brackets, and then just any standard variable will work. So there were X horses in the barn. There were, and then brackets, Y horses in the field. How many horses altogether? So basic addition problem, right? But this way, we don't have to put in the same numbers for everybody. We'll have Canvas pick numbers for us. So we're going to go ahead and click out of that field, and then we can start putting in the definitions of those variables. So let's say we're working on 2-digit addition. So for X, we want the value to be between 10 and 99. And for Y, we can put the value between 10 and 99 too. And then what Canvas will do is pick 2 numbers that fit within your range and just check those really quickly to make sure that they do fall within the range. And this is what we want to have our students doing. Now, Canvas does not know automatically that our formula is an addition problem. It doesn't know that. So you have to just quickly tell it what the formula is. And in this case, we're just doing X plus Y. And then we can click save. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, you can also put in decimal places with these drop downs. So if you wanted that. Now, this is kind of cool too. Canvas can make up to 200 different possible combinations with these numbers. And so, we probably don't need it to choose 200, but if we had 25 students in the class, we could put in 25, and then there's now 25 different possible value combinations that students could get, and we'll click generate, and this will give us the complete list of all the different number combinations that Canvas is going to create and send out to the students. So just, generates this whole different thing, so all the kids will have different numbers, and you can really see that they're understanding the concept, which is kind of cool. These little boxes down here will let you give immediate feedback for students. The green one is for the correct answer. So, you can just type a nice little message in there, and then you scroll down and click done. So if a kid has the correct answer, it'll tell them they did a nice job. The red one is if they had the wrong answer. And, you could put a message in there if you wanted, and click done if you don't want anything else at all. And then we're just going to click update question and move on. And I'll show you what this will look like from the student's perspective in just a minute. But I want to show you one more pretty neat thing about classic quizzes. So we're going to add another question here. And this one I'm actually going to do as a multiple choice question. But one thing that's neat about Canvas quizzes is that they do have math equations available to put into the rich content editors. And just for getting like quick formative assessments, multiple choice is a really good way to do that. So in the question itself, you click on the insert menu, and then you click equation. And then this will bring up a window that has a lot of different math symbols where you can write the equation where the kids will need to solve it. For this demo, we'll just stick with fractions. So I'm going to put, let's do 1/2, and I'm using the arrow keys to navigate the cursor around. And let's add 1/2 plus 1/3. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and scroll down and insert that equation into the rich content editor. Now, 1/2 plus 1/3, we need to come down here and give the kids their answer choices, right? So let's see, it's 3/6 plus 2/6, so 5/6. So we can put in the correct answer as 5/6, but we don't have the rich content editor here, right? And if we type something like that, it just doesn't look as nice. But what you can do, and this is kind of cool, is over to the side, there's this little pencil icon that you can click, and then you'll have the whole rich content editor where you can insert equations here as well. And so if we click insert equation, we have this again, and you can say the fraction answer in this case, and then insert the equation, and then the students will see the 5/6 as the possible answer choice there. There it is. And then they'll have that they can click on. So if you're wondering what this will look like from the student's point of view, you will need to save it. And then you can either go into student view or click preview. And then we can see how this will kind of look from their end. So you can see on the first question, I forgot to save that last question, didn't I? On the first question, there were 28 horses in the barn, there were 67 horses in the field. And so then the students would just be able to answer that question. And I forgot to save the last question I just wrote, so sorry about that. But question 2 would have had them with the fraction addition problem, and then they would be able to see that 5/6 as the possible answer. So those are classic quizzes, and I've set that up within the module itself. Now, new quizzes are a little bit different how you access them, and a little bit different how you just operate with them in general. So for starters, to start building a new quiz, you'll actually go to quizzes in the left side navigation here. And we're going to build the new quiz from here. So you'll see in the top right, there's this add quiz button. And it will allow you to make a classic quiz here or a new quiz. For this, we're going to do the new quiz. It'll let you remember your choice for this course, which means that in the future, anytime you click that add quiz button, it's going to launch that same type of quiz. I would recommend not doing this because sometimes there's really great features for the classic quizzes and sometimes there's really great features for the new quizzes. And it just kind of depends on what you're assessing for which quiz type you'll want to use. So I'd highly suggest not clicking that. You can undo it, but still. And then we're going to go ahead and click submit because we want a new quiz. Okay, and let's go ahead and call this the sample new quiz for presentation. And we can set a point value. And then again, I'd highly recommend putting this in some sort of assignment group because adding a new quiz to a module is, I wouldn't say it's tricky, but you can help yourself a lot more if it's organized into groups later. You can decide how you display the grade and then or if it counts toward a final grade. And then Canvas sees new quizzes as an external tool. So you don't have to do anything with that, just leave it alone and then decide who to assign it to. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and then we can start writing this quiz. Now, some of the question items in new quizzes are really kind of neat, and I'm going to show you 4 examples of the things that you can do in a new quiz. So as soon as this thing loads, you can see it looks a lot different than the rest of Canvas. It just has a different feel to it altogether. But in general, you can kind of put the same information in here. So we're going to start by adding some instructions for the kids, do your best, whatever. And there's a whole lot more that you can add in there than just text. But for this, I think that's enough. And we can say done. And now we're going to use this blue circle with the plus to start adding our questions one at a time. And the first question type that I wanted to show you all today is the categorization question. And I think one thing, a really great use of categorization would be like for word study when students are sorting words just by the letter patterns or sound patterns or whatever you're working on. But for this example right now, I'm thinking geography. So I'm going to tell the students to organize states and provinces. So states in the US, provinces are kind of like states, but in Canada. And so let's have the 2 separate categories. On one side, we'll have states here, and on the other side, we'll have provinces. And below that, we can just type the different answers that the kids will be working with. So, 3 states I can think of really quickly. We can have Washington, Oregon, and California. And over on the provinces side, let's go west to east so we can have British Columbia. Spell it right, extra H in there. We can have Alberta. And the next province from west to east is Saskatchewan. I really don't know how to spell that one, so let's go with Manitoba. And you can add another category, so you can have them organizing in 3 different places. For now, we'll just do 2. And then another kind of neat thing is if you really want to make sure that students are understanding whatever the concept is that you're teaching, is you can add additional distractors that don't belong in either category. So, here we could put down like Wales, which is one of the countries of the United Kingdom, not a state, not a province. It doesn't go in either category at all. If you're writing math questions, you can show an on-screen calculator for the kids. If you decide to do that, I would adjust the settings so that students are seeing these questions one at a time so that they only get the calculator for the questions that you want them to have the calculator for, and that it won't be there for them for the whole test. So that's pretty much it for that categorization question. So I'm going to click done. That's how you build those. And it's really neat because once this is all done, the kids will just click and drag these things and put them into the proper categories. The next one I wanted to show you all is ordering. And so ordering is a way that kids can also be clicking and dragging these options and just putting them in a proper order. So this can be chronological order or from greatest to least or whatever. So we'll call the question title ordering. And let's say organize the numbers from least to greatest. And then we can start building our quiz here. So the top label in this case would be least because we're starting there. And then just to make this quick, we'll put in some easy numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the kids will be able to slide those around from least to greatest, and then the bottom category is greatest. Again, we have the on-screen calculator option, but for now, let's just call that done, because the next two items are actually the ones I get the most excited about, especially this one right here. So the hotspot question, this one can be so cool. Hotspot questions allow you to import an image and then create a clickable field so that the kids can click on something to like identify it. So, I mean, if you're teaching a science unit and you need students to identify like the parts of a cell, or if you're working on geography and you need students to identify a state or a country or something, this is the way to go. So I'm thinking geography right now. I'm just on that frame of mind. So please click the state of Colorado. And right here is where we're going to browse to find our image. So I click there to browse. And I'm going to pull in an unlabeled map of the United States. There we go. And when this loads up, I'm going to use this polygon tool to outline the state of Colorado. So each time I go around a corner, I click my mouse, and then this will extend the lines all the way around the state. And then we double click when we get to the end to cut it off. And so now that's going to be a clickable field for the students if they want to, when you want them to identify the state. Again, we have a lot of the same options here. On-screen calculator, obviously not needed for this. But that is the hotspot question, and kind of a neat tool that one is, I think. And then the last one I want to show you, which actually takes a little more setup, but is also great for like reading quizzes and things like that, is the stimulus question. So in the stimulus question, students will be able to have a reading passage, or honestly other things too, a picture or a video or whatever on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side of the screen, they'll be able to answer questions that are related to whatever is on the left. So earlier I copied the beginning part of the text of Alice in Wonderland. So maybe this is just an Alice in Wonderland quiz. And we might tell the kids to do something like read the passage and then answer the questions. Okay. And I think I probably lost my copy here. So let me grab it again real quick. And then I'll paste it into the rich content editor here. There's the first page of Alice in Wonderland. And now I've got that text in there. Now to add the questions that will go with this text, I click in this white field over here, and a new button is going to show up that says attach a question. So I can click that, and then I have all of the question types available in new quizzes for me to put in, so I can build this quiz about this reading passage. So let's do a multiple choice for this one. And we can say, like, what is the main character's name? And then we can put in our answers and distractors. So Alice, is it Elizabeth? Is it Darcy? Is it Margaret? And then what's also cool is that we can keep adding questions here. So we can tell it that we're done with that question, but then we can add additional questions. We can keep attaching these questions. And again, I mean, any of these will work. So here's a true false. So TF for the title. The question stem, Alice meets a white rabbit. Is that true or false? And again, we can just keep adding these quiz questions forever. So kind of a neat option if we're practicing for reading tests, reading quizzes, things like that. To preview these, to see these from the student view, you scroll up to the very top and there's this preview button. And so we're going to be able to see what this will look like from the student's perspective. And it always makes me feel a lot better when I can see what the kids will actually see here. So when they're trying to organize states and provinces, I mean, we have Alberta, that's a province, Manitoba is a province, and I'm just clicking and dragging with my mouse and putting them into the proper categories. So a nice way to organize there. For ordering, it's very similar. I can click and drag and put these in order from least to greatest. And then here's the one where it's the hotspot. So we know they want to click the state of Colorado. Remember when we built this, this was all light blue, right? And just shining. Now we don't see it. So this kids have to know where that is, but anywhere in that field would get them the correct answer. And then on this one, you know, they can answer the questions pertaining to that reading passage and then submit their answers. Yeah, sure. And then they're going to get automatically scored based on the answer. And I didn't finish all of them, so it's telling me that I didn't get them all correct. So that's kind of how it looks there from the student view. Now I have 1 minute to show question banks. I'm going to exit the preview. Question banks for new quizzes are actually fairly easy to build as you're working on the items themselves, because when you click on an item, you're able to expand this item banking and add it to a bank. And you can either use an existing bank that you've already made. So let's say I've got a math bank and I want to put that there, or you can create a new item bank right from here. And then we can start adding those to our banks. And the nice thing about banks is then you can use those questions later when you're building other quizzes. For the classic quizzes, it's not quite as easy, but it's still totally doable. Once you're in the quiz tab, you click on the 3 dots. Come on. You manage question banks. And every question that you ever write in classic quizzes ever get dropped in this unfiled questions question bank. And so what can be really nice is after you build a quiz, if you come into unfiled questions, when this loads, then we can start moving these different questions into other banks that you've made. The other option, of course, see, we can move and copy it into another question bank. The other option, of course, would just be to write the questions in the question banks to begin with and then import them into the quiz. But those are kind of the two main ways that you can do this. So I know that was a flurry, that was so fast, and it went wire to wire this time, just like it did this morning. So it is 3:30, and happy to let you go enjoy the sunshine if you want to right now. Or this morning I stuck around and was happy to answer any additional questions that anyone may have, because I know that was that was super quick. It just is a big topic to cover in a half an hour. So in any case, thank you again all so much for coming here today. And if you're done, that's fine. And if you want to stay and chat a little while longer, I'm happy to stick around.